it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are some pretty big losers after earnings, right? So we talked about, Amazon maybe beating to the upside, but let's look at the other side of the ledger, right? We got to keep ourselves honest here. This is why we have a portfolio. Not every stock does well. What are some of the losers that got shellacked in earnings, justified or otherwise, right? Maybe we're seeing some premature bearishness, or maybe there's actually some real thesis cracking going on. I see, you know, what was what was the one that sold off really well? Power Solutions, right? They were off close to what, 15%? Do I have that right?
Yeah, and they're down now 36% from when we announced the recommendation. So pretty
But
significant
but but
sell
after
off.
earnings, they were down a material amount, right?
So yeah, the day after earnings, initially it was up 7% from announcing earnings. When I looked after hours, I was down 15. I looked when the market opened, it was down
Ooh,
45%.
ooh,
I had someone text me and say, "This seems like the kind of sell off you only see in an accounting scandal." I said, "Yeah, it seems like exaggeration." They said, "I'm going to buy." They were up 40% by the end of the day because from the bottom it rose
right.
40%. It's still down. The thing is, Austin, I recently in the portfolio, if someone looked at that, would be like, "Oh, these recent buys are not very good." We've got a number of stocks down that we had made recent, buy announcements on. The reason is because we've started out with some of these areas that I see having kind of big stories in 2026, and I've been going for smaller speculative plays to get some leverage on them. So like if you are new to the portfolio, you might have seen Applied Optoelectronics, which is AAOI. We have that as a small $5,000 position. The reason we have that as a $5,000 position is because we have larger bets on Coherent. We have larger bets on Lumentum. We have larger bets on Fabrinet. If you're coming to the portfolio and only buying the most recent stuff, you're not going to get the broad exposure across ideas, right? So when you have these indiscriminate sell offs, these small and speculative companies will often sell off the worst. So, like for Power Solutions, it might be a bad recommendation. We'll need to give time to see. But the idea was I like the overall market. I didn't think this company necessarily had anything special, but they were trading at what I saw as a fairly reasonable valuation still. And they're going to have just demand by essence of the market. Now, what investors got whacked by was it's small and speculative, and the management team might not be as good as management teams who have been through this rodeo before. They issued weird guidance and they didn't have an earnings call. And when they finally had an earnings call, they tried explaining it. It seems relatively explainable, but you're just getting a lower quality company for the promise of upside. If you want stability in that market, you are looking at a Caterpillar or a Generac, right? And we might go through and recommend those stocks later. But, I did want to talk about some of right now, if someone's looking at kind of investment ideas, if you're small and speculative, you're going to be getting hammered in this market no matter what. That's just the type of market is. I don't necessarily think that. I think Ouster, which just got hammered with pretty good earnings, can be a very solid company, and it could be the kind of stock that's getting sold off indiscriminately, even though they have a great long-term opportunity. They're just in the wrong narrative for the market right now. So I would encourage everyone who's looking at some of these ideas that are selling off to kind of take a deep breath. Remember, if you're buying them, they are supposed to be positioned small relative to the rest of the portfolio. And know that often there's nothing that's been thesis changing on these ideas. They're just the wrong stocks for the wrong moment, right?
Volatility cuts both ways, as we say. You got to be ready to, and no portfolio has 100% winners, but
You don't want 100% winners either.
because you're
If
being too
you have 100,
conservative, right? Yeah.
you're not taking enough risk. If you believe that AI is as large as it is, and you're not taking some swings that miss, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You want losers. I know that sounds crazy, but you want losers.
Well,
That's part of the game.